Who asked for this? Who asked for the Broncos every week on national TV and radio right here on Sactown Sports 1140?
I don't even know if Russell Wilson wanted it to be this ridiculous, but here we are. Broncos, Chargers later tonight. At least you get to watch Justin Herbert and the Chargers. So that's coming up at 4:30. And let's jump right into it, Ramie, with the game yesterday for the 49ers. Look, a lot of people are going to talk about the injuries, and we'll get into those injuries because we have some updates in just a few minutes. But I actually look at yesterday's game, and the one thing that really stands out to me about what happened yesterday was that fourth quarter, because Kyle Shanahan and his handling of the fourth quarter was very, very strange. You know, you're down 14 points. You're down 2 touchdowns and 2 extra points, right? You're going into the final quarter, down 14. You get the football with just about 11 minutes left on the clock. And for some reason, Kyle Shanahan and company decide that they're going to orchestrate an 8-minute drive. Now, it ended with 0 points, but even aside from the 0 points, even if you score points in that situation, an 8-minute drive in the fourth quarter down by 14 points, it was outrageous to me. Here's what Kyle Shanahan had to say about his management of the clock in the fourth quarter.
I just knew we had 2 more times with the ball, and we did do a number of no-huddle plays. We also mixed it up not doing it too. So we did both. The key is that you can't come up short on that. Expect the ball, get the ball twice. And we're not going to panic when we feel like we have 2 more possessions, especially with 3 timeouts. But when you don't score on that, and it came up, was it the 4th and 1 on that drive? Can't remember. But that definitely backfires when you don't score on one of them.
Ramie, your thoughts on that snail pace of a drive in the fourth?
I couldn't believe what I was watching. I literally couldn't believe what I was like. Am I missing something here? Is the scoreboard wrong? Is this the third quarter? And I thought it was the fourth. I couldn't believe or understand or wrap my head around what was. And he said they went no huddle a few times. They went no huddle exactly twice. That's not a few, Kyle. That's a couple. If you want to use different word for few, a couple. That ain't a few. All right. On a 16-play drive, they went no huddle twice, Nick. And he says there, I knew we had the ball 2 more times. Well, you not scoring on that drive is exactly why you need to have some urgency, because maybe, just maybe, you could have the ball 3 times if you hurried up there, and more chances to tie this game up. Or if you are successful and you have the ball 3 times, chance to win in regulation and not take this thing into overtime. It made no, like, to this very second, as I sit here in our studios, Nick, I can't understand what I watched in that fourth quarter drive yesterday for a team down 2 scores to just la-di-da and take their time going down the field. Made no sense to me whatsoever.
It was absolutely ridiculous. Number one, if you go off of his logic, and I don't even know if I would call that logic, his excuse as to why they took 8 minutes in that fourth quarter to do nothing on that drive, to drive down and then not score any points. And I'll get to the 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 in a minute. But just to take what Shanahan said in the postgame press conference. Okay, so let's say you had the football 2 more times in that fourth quarter. If you're looking at it, we're saying we have 2 possessions. Okay, number one, that means you have to score points the first time if you're going to take 8 minutes, because if you don't score, you're not going to have enough time to score 14 points. So
that's number one. Number two, you are taking it for granted that your defense, which is missing at that point 7 or 8 starters, you're taking it for granted that your defense
is going to slow down the run attack from Atlanta, which was giving you fits. You're almost taking for granted that you're going to force a 3 and out, or at least give up like maybe 2 series, right? Say, okay, well, you might get like 6 downs, 7 downs of action here, and then we're going to get the football back. So you're taking it for granted that you can come up with multiple stops. It's just insane. You have to go quick. You have to score, get within 1 touchdown, and then you put the pressure back on Atlanta. And then if you come up with a stop, you have plenty of time. If you don't come up with a stop, guess what? You're still down by 2 possessions, and now you need that extra possession. It makes 0 sense what they did. On top of that, Ramie, the 3rd and 1 play call. What are we doing? The 3rd and 1 play call, a pitch to Tevin Coleman, an outside run. Terrible play call. Made no sense, and obviously it didn't work. And then you follow that up. After the pitch play to Coleman on 3rd and 1, you come back 4th and short, and you go into shotgun formation. And not only that, after the Coleman run, you sit there and you don't snap the football until there's about 10 seconds left on the play clock. This was some of the worst time management that I've ever witnessed from an NFL head coach.
It was baffling to me. And the craziest part about it, Nick, is to that point in the game, as evidenced by how little they ran the football in that game yesterday, 16 carries for 50 yards. To that point in the game, Kyle Shanahan showed no interest in like eating clock, winning time of possession, keeping his defense off the field. Nick, that drive was 8 minutes. They still lost a time of possession game 33-26. You know what I mean, man? Like now you decide, hey guys, let's take a breath. Everybody calm down in trying to get down the field here. Everybody just slow it down here. When the whole day you were more than happy to take shots, to throw the ball around and put the ball back in the Atlanta Falcons' hands. I can't, none of it adds up. None of it makes sense.
No. None of it was computing in my head as I was watching them walk down the field like they're just sauntering through a nice little park on a weekend day. Like, la-di-da. Let's just wait until there's 15 seconds and 12 seconds and 10 seconds left on the play clock before we snap the football down by 14. Here was Shanahan talking about the 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 play calls.
I mean, we just had done a number of short yardages. If you look at the first one of the game, I believe, the 3rd play, the 3rd and 1, when we went inside, they were just all tight in there. We were able to get one later with a sneak, and then we thought they were going to have the same looks, and we tried to get outside. I don't know exactly what happened outside, but I think we lost a yard on the play, and then we went to our 3rd down, and they went to zone. We had a zone and a man play on, and it was tight right between those two linebackers, and didn't come up with it.
Gotta love my guy, Tony Dog, saying it was a weekend day. Tony, I know it was a weekend day. My point was a weekend stroll through the park, my friend, not playing an NFL football game. They handled that drive like it was no big deal, like they were walking their dog on a Saturday morning instead of playing in the NFL. It was outrageous. And as David Neal points out, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140, those are the kinds of drives that Kyle needs when he's leading going into the 4th quarter. Yes, in Super Bowls. That's the kind of drive, if you're up by 14, that's what you do. You run clock. You take forever. And instead, when you're down 14, you're supposed to speed the operation up, get down the field, and score some freaking points as fast as you can.
That's a great point. That's the type of drive you want to have when you're up by 1 or 2 scores and you get the ball in the 4th quarter at your own 1 yard line. At that point, it's just about, okay, let's play the clock game. Let's try and bleed this thing out and get out of here with a win despite all the injuries. I literally at one point had to make sure that I had the score right, Nick, that what I watched for the last 2.5 hours previous to that was not a hallucination. You know what I mean? I was like, they are up 2 scores and not down 2. I mean, they are down 2 scores and not up 2 scores, right? That's how confusing this thing was to me, man. I can't understand the philosophy or the play calling behind that.
Yeah, because nobody can understand it because it made no sense. 916-339-1140 is the text line. Also, the phone line is 1-800-920-1140. Your thoughts on that 4th quarter drive by the 49ers and just Kyle Shanahan, his awful clock management yesterday.
Go along with some bad play calls on short distance there, 3rd and 1 and 4th and short. Your thoughts on what happened yesterday?
916-339-1140. We also want to get into the injuries because there were 2 more injuries yesterday. We have plenty of updates for you on those injuries coming up. Also in 90 seconds, the Kings wrapped up a very convincing preseason on Friday night.
It's Cattles. It's Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140. When it comes to the Kings, nobody has you covered like we do.
Sitting across from me, Domantas Sabonis. Does it feel
we'll get into our thoughts on that Kings-Lakers game on Friday night. A convincing preseason from the Kings. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. Speaking of the Kings, just want to mention this. I can't thank the people. I cannot thank the Kings fans enough. Friday night, a game that was not on television, a preseason game. It was a blowout by the second quarter. No Kevin Huerter, no Keegan Murray. And still, the Kings recap show on Friday night was fantastic. It was a tremendous success. A lot of eyeballs watched and hung out with me on Friday night. And I give all of you the credit. I mean, just tons of credit to those Kings fans. And if there was ever a doubt about the passion of Kings fans, I can't speak highly enough about what happened on Friday night. We appreciate all of you. Don't forget, on Wednesday night, Carl Michael Dave will be doing the Kings recap show following the Blazers-Kings home opener here at Golden One. So you want to watch that. Again, youtube.com/Sactown Sports 1140. Just tremendous numbers given the circumstances and what was going on Friday night. So, again, a lot of credit to all of you. And I also want to say that Chris Watkins and his show on Saturday morning was a success as well. And we appreciate everybody who followed along, whether it was listening to the show or watching it on YouTube. Kings Weekly with Chris Watkins off to a great start. So thanks to all the Kings fans. We're going to continue to do this, the Kings recap show after every single game. Next one is Wednesday night. And then Chris will be hosting every Saturday morning starting at 11 a.m. You do not want to miss that. Again, we'll get to the Kings in a minute, but I want to finish up with the Niners here and some of the injuries quickly. I did see Peter on the YouTube channel say, I was screaming at the TV for them to move their butts and hurry up. So frustrating watching this team sometimes. Shanahan is overrated. Shanahan has his issues. And, he got to the NFC Championship game last year, could have easily gone to his second Super Bowl in 3-4 years. And people will look at that and they'll talk about what he's been able to do as the head coach. But he is certainly not a flawless individual. Let's hit the injuries quickly, Ramie. So McGlinchey and Ward, they go down.
We're going to take up this whole segment. Just listen.
I think we can get through it. McGlinchey and Ward, injuries yesterday. They both left. They were out of this game by halftime. McGlinchey tried to come back. He was out there for like a series. He ended up leaving with a calf issue. Ward left because of an ankle. So here is your update. Chris Peterman tweeted yesterday during the game, by the way. Both starting tackles, both starting corners, 3 starting defensive linemen, your starting safety, starting running back, starting quarterback, and starting linebacker all out as of yesterday at halftime. That is insane.
Good.
It's just ridiculous. Akash Enavrathan, he tweeted out, this was from Kyle Shanahan today. So McGlinchey, we got some good news for you Niners fans. McGlinchey is day-to-day. Shanahan said hopefully he is ready by Sunday. It's a calf contusion. Travarius Ward, Mooney Ward, is day-to-day. Shanahan said hopefully he'll be ready for Sunday as well. Talanoa Hufanga, this is not so great news. So he went through the concussion protocol yesterday. He passed, went back into the game, and then today he showed up to the facility with symptoms. So now he is in the concussion protocol. So they don't know if Hufanga is going to be able to play this weekend. Drake Jackson, knee sprain, day-to-day. And Samson Ebukam is also day-to-day with his issues. Shanahan also let everybody know that Jimmy Ward, you asked this question going back a week or two ago, Ramie, about Ward and that broken hand. Can he play with a cast? Shanahan said that it is possible for Ward to play with a cast. It probably won't happen this week, but he could be back next week. And Eric Armstead is unlikely to return this week, so he's still banged up. But some other good news is that Trent Williams could be a go this weekend. Could be. So it sounds like most of the injuries that have popped up here, and especially the ones that popped up yesterday, aside from Hufanga, most of them, Ramie, are day-to-day.
Did you see this thing from Fox Sports? I didn't know this was a thing until today, Nick. They have a banged up score. The bus score somehow quantifies how injuries affect the overall team position and player performance on a scale of 0 to 100. The 49ers are literally the most injured team in the NFL, according to the scale. However, they do those calculations, and I believe it. Like I didn't even know this was a thing until today, and I'm a believer in the formula. Just knowing what you just went over when it comes to the 49ers. I can't say that I've never seen anything like this before, but man, I'm hard pressed to think of a team, especially a team that's a contender for a Super Bowl, being as injured at significant key positions and blue chip players as the 49ers are right now. This is getting out of control.
It's like 7 or 8 of the starting defensive players out. It's outrageous. All right, let's get to the Kings. Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports here on a Monday. Update on health for the Kings. So both Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter could miss the season opener on Wednesday night. Over the weekend, we found out that Keegan was placed into the health and safety protocols, so he might miss Wednesday night and probably will miss Wednesday night. Huerter was at practice today, but he did not really play much at all. He wasn't really on the floor, and when the guys were running laps for missed free throws, Huerter was like doing push-ups. So his ankle is still obviously bugging him. So it looks like they could be without Keegan and Kevin Huerter on Wednesday night. But meanwhile, Ramie, I got to talk about it on Friday night with the people. A convincing preseason was wrapped up on Friday night. They curb stomped the Lakers. Here was Coach Brown after the win.
The biggest thing for me is whether we competed or not. I don't care if we're up 20, down 20, it's tied. I don't care who's on the floor. I just want us to compete, and I want us to cheer for each other on both sides of the ball. And so for me, that's the biggest thing that I'm going to take away from this game. It feels good to win. But I felt, again, we competed, and it'd be interesting to go back and watch the film just to make sure that's accurate.
So, by the way, we're hearing from some people in the YouTube section about some kind of echo. Not sure if it's still going on or not. So, if we could check that out behind the scenes. So, Brown said, "Look, effort. These guys, they want to play. They've bought in. They look like they're buying in." Your thoughts, Ramie, about what happened on Friday night?
I wasn't able to watch it, Nick, because as you said, that game wasn't. Is this a normal thing, or is this because it's the preseason?
No.
All right.
No.
All the Kings games are televised. I'm gonna be able to watch every Kings game.
Yes, NBC Sports California.
Just wanted to make sure. And then the other thing I want to know if it's going to be a regular occurrence is if by chance I'm not able to watch a Kings game, I turned on Sports Center to see the Kings highlights. And they got to it. They're like Kings, Lakers. Then they showed Russell Westbrook leave the game early with a hamstring injury. They showed LeBron make 2 baskets, and then they were like, "Oh, and the Kings blew him out by 50 points." I was like, "Oh, yeah, would have been nice to see at least 2 of those 50 points." I mean, but you have to like, if you were able to see it, you have to like what you saw. I have to assume just based on what I saw in the numbers and following people on Twitter as the game was going on. Just ran him off the court, Nick, and I was surprised how much Mike Brown went with his starters and key players for the last preseason game of the year. And the thing, I mean, I know this team can score, but to hold that Lakers team, which played LeBron for 18 minutes, and well, I guess nobody else really, but played LeBron for 18 minutes, held them to 86 points. It sounds like there was some good defense going on Friday night. Again, I wasn't able to watch it, but it sounds like there was some good defense going on Friday night.
Couple things. Brown in the pregame talked about KZ Okpala starting, and especially on the heels of this protocol situation with Keegan, I think we can safely move away now from the idea of Keegan starting, at least at the beginning of this season. He's not going to start. I would not be surprised whatsoever if it is Okpala who starts. I thought Domas was excellent in the first quarter. He was in the paint an awful lot, which is exactly where you want to see him. They played off of him very well. I thought he was aggressive, and the other guys played off of Domas very well. The offense looked good. They were moving the basketball. They had man movement. Domas was heavily involved with the basketball in his hands, which is always a good thing. Play off of that guy, and your offense will roll. I also think Terrence Davis, again, was the first guy off the bench. And look, this is no longer like preseason fodder. I think Davis is a part of this rotation. The other thing I would say is Davion and Fox both looked good from 3. They've shot the basketball pretty well from distance in the preseason. If that can translate into the regular season, this offense might be even better than we thought it was going to be. And finally, I agree with you, Ramie. I was surprised that Coach Brown left his guys in there as long as he did in a blowout. I was not a fan of that, but fortunately nobody got hurt. I wanted him to pull the starters early on in that third quarter. He left them out there, though, for most of that third quarter in like a 45-point game, but it did not backfire for the coach, fortunately. Time to check out Coastside Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. We're almost through 1/3 of the NFL season already. Can you imagine? We're going to overreact on this NFL Monday coming up next.
Cattles and Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
Depression, anxiety, and trauma can happen to anyone.
Champ yet? Has your favorite team thrown in the towel? It's Overreaction Monday.
Before we get to Overreaction Monday, I want to let everybody know that all guests come to you from Folsom Lake Honda, the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. All right, Ramie, as I said last segment, it's kind of crazy to think, but we're almost at the end of week 6 already. With tonight's game, as soon as that wraps up, we're through 6 weeks of the NFL season, which is exactly one. Yeah, crazy, right? We're exactly 1/3 through the season after tonight's game. It's just flying by. So let's start with some overreactions. I'll go to you first, Ramie.
We starting with positives or negatives? What are we doing first here?
Whatever you would like. I'm going to tell you, I think I have all 3 negatives today.
Okay. So. I'll go. Oh, okay. All right. JETS, Jets. Nick Cattles. They're going all the way, baby. 4 straight wins.
Oh.
I mean, they're not, but it's Overreaction Monday, so they're going all the way. 4 straight wins and just dog walking Aaron Rodgers and the Packers off of Lambeau Field yesterday. That was. I mean, I was borderline shocked by that outcome. Not that the Packers would lose to the Jets. Packers have had their struggles, but 27-10. And Nick, you know, my girlfriend lives in Green Bay right now. She was out the night before the game, and guess who was at the bar along with every other Jets fan in the world? Fireman Ed, ladies and gentlemen. Fireman Ed out there leading the JETS Jets chant. They took over that town. When they won, I texted her. I was like, get inside. The Jets are about to take over Green Bay. They've had a bunch of alcohol, and they're feeling themselves. This could get dangerous. I can't believe what I saw yesterday in Green Bay.
Well, jumping off of that, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be so miserable by the end of this season, he's going to retire. This is it. Like, this is Aaron's last year. He's done. He's fed up. The post-game press conferences, he's tired of this offense. He's tired of this team. And you go back to last week, him talking about, speaking things into existence. He was right. Like, here we are. Jair Alexander talked about losing to the Jets next week, and then he'd be concerned. I hope Jair's concerned. I'm concerned. Everybody's concerned. This is it, man. Rodgers, this is his swan song. He's going to leave Green Bay once this miserable season is over. He's had enough. Totally enough. Let's go to JJ.
Yep, I'm going towards your way, Mr. McCaddles. Bailey Zappi. Come on down, my man. You are the new starter for the rest of the year when it comes to the New England Patriots. I just can't see it, man. It's a controversy. If it's not, please tell me right now, but I'm going Bailey Zappi, the new quarterback of the New England Patriots.
Actually possible. Is that, Nick, you're a Patriots guy. Is that seems like it could be a thing, right?
Not going there yet.
No?
I personally would not go there yet, but I know what happens here. The most popular player is the backup quarterback when the backup quarterback plays well. So it happens in every city. It happens with every NFL team. As soon as one guy comes in, he plays well, everybody wants to get rid of the starting quarterback. I don't think Belichick is there. I'm not sold that he will be there at any point, but I don't think he's there at this point. There's just no way. Right. I can't see that happen.
Negative overreactions. Tom Brady is going to retire. You said by the end of the season, Aaron Rodgers is going to retire, Nick. Tom Brady is just going to throw in the towel week 10 if this thing keeps going the way that it's going. That's a dude who is not enjoying himself right now. I don't say this to make fun of or make light of or take any joy in, but we know his personal life doesn't seem great right now. He's yelling at his teammates and I know he yells at his teammates a lot. That seemed like there was a little extra mustard on him yelling at his teammates on the bench yesterday. He's hanging out at Robert Kraft's wedding late into the evening, 2 nights before the game. This dude is done with football. Shouldn't have come back. Should just ran off into the sunset. He's not having fun, and he will call it quits by week 10 if this thing doesn't turn around quick.
You know, I'll stick with Brady. Same kind of idea, somewhat. Brady and the Bucs, they've been figured out. I mean, this team lost to the Steelers yesterday. They lost to Kenny Pickett and then Mitchell Trubisky. Pickett leaves because of a concussion. Trubisky comes in, and somehow, some way, the Steelers and this team has looked like, the Steelers have looked like one of the worst teams in football this season. Somehow the Bucs lose to that team. Again, Tom's 45 years old, man. It's not going well for the Bucs right now. So I think they've been figured out. I think Brady is 1 foot in, 1 foot out with this whole thing. Not looking great. JJ.
It's all over in the NFC North, Ramie. I hate to say it. I know you came in here all orange down, pumpkin style for Halloween. I get it, brother. But the Minnesota Vikings are 5-1, and as much as the orange doesn't match the purple, it's all Minnesota Vikings from here on out. The Packers are done. The Bears, you guys are just a little too close according to Justin Fields, but just not close enough. And we already know what's going on in Detroit. I mean, look, you got a better chance of getting a 1994 50, a Mustang, than seeing the Detroit Lions win. So Minnesota is over with. NFC North, come on down. We'll see you.
Yeah, you could have stopped right after you talked about the Packers being done and the Vikings.
Checking.
You know, when discussing the NFC North and how it's going to end up, need not mention the Bears or the Lions. Like you can just leave them out of the conversation till further notice. Just two sad franchises.
Well, I pay respect to the Bears as always because you're in my presence, so you got to at least give some love to the Bears.
I'm telling you, you don't have to on my account because that is a sad organization out there in Chicago. And obviously, we all know that about Detroit, right?
All right, your third and final one, Ramie. What you got?
Oh, we have a third one? Because Chris isn't here today. I'd come up with a third one on the fly here. I don't know if this is even an overreaction. Cardinals are cooked, man. Cliff Kingsbury is
not great.
Is on his way out the door. I mean, I know they made the trade for Robbie Anderson today, and maybe, and they get DeAndre Hopkins back next week. Wouldn't be the first time a team came back from 2-4 to make some noise. But, man, they lost a division game yesterday to the Seahawks. Kyler Murray does not look as explosive or as special as he has looked for stretches in his career. I don't know if that thing gets back up off the ground in Arizona.
All right, so here's the last one this week. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens won't make it to the playoffs.
Wow.
Not going to make it to the playoffs. Wow. They're now 3-3. They've lost double-digit leads. They've lost double-digit leads at home. Harbaugh in the post game seems like he's deflated a little bit here. That's it. Lamar started off fantastic this season, but already you start to see the decline. You see the decline in his numbers. You see the decline in what's going on in Baltimore. That's it. They're done. So there you have it. Our Monday overreactions. Don't forget 916-339-1140 is the text line. Phone number is 1-800-920-1140. Also, youtube.com/Sactown Sports 1140. Don't forget to give us the thumbs up and also to subscribe. You know, we did that Kings recap show on Friday night. If you are a subscriber to the YouTube channel, you guys can get notifications every time we do the recap show. So again, don't forget youtube.com/Sactown Sports 1140. Still have a lot to get to. We got some giveaways to do. We got some more Kings to talk about, some more Niners. But coming up next, do the Warriors' new contract extensions spell the end of Draymond Green with Golden State?
It's Cattles. It's Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by RC Willey Home Furnishings.
I'm Mark Finan in the KCRA 3.
All right, so let's do a couple of giveaways here. We have 2 giveaways. What's better than 1 giveaway? 2 giveaways. 2 giveaways for you right now. Win a pair of tickets to see the legendary band Journey, Stockton Arena, April 19th, 2023. And you can also win a pair of tickets to see Adam Sandler live. He is going to be stopping by Golden One on December 7th, 2022. So December 7th of this year, Adam Sandler at Golden One. And then you've got Journey coming to the Stockton Arena on April 19th of 2023. As we always do, the text line, 916-339-1140, is the text line, 916-339-1140. Let's see what we need 2 words of the day. Let's have Ramie pick a word of the day and JJ pick a word of the day. We'll have JJ pick the word of the day for Journey.
Got you. We're going concert.
Okay, so concert. If you want a couple tickets to see Journey in April at the Stockton Arena, text the word concert to 916-339-1140. One of you lucky texters will win a pair of tickets. Ramie, we need a word for Adam Sandler live at Golden One on December 7th.
Is this 2 words and is it permissible? Lunch lady. Lunch
lady. It's fine.
Okay.
We'll go with lunch lady. Lunch lady. Text in lunch lady 916-339-1140. And one of you lucky texters who text that in to the text line will win a pair of tickets to see Adam Sandler at Golden One on December 7th. So
Ramie's breaking the rules,
to those. Why is that?
He's coming up with phrases and things, man. We keeping it simple around here, but I get it. You make the rules, Ramie. It's okay.
It's hyphenated. That's 1 word technically.
Hyphenated.
Yes.
Okay, so we can go with the hyphenated terms. All right, so congratulations to those 2 lucky listeners who got those texts right. Congratulations to the both of you. Ramie, during the weekend, it was extension season in the NBA. A lot of these rookie deals were coming up, and teams had to make decisions whether or not to sign these guys to extensions or they could walk into restricted free agency. PJ Washington, for example, is walking into restricted free agency. He was unable to come to a deal with Charlotte, so he will be an RFA. But meanwhile, the Warriors, they took care of business with Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole signs a 4-year, $123 million contract. Now, the reports came out as $140 million. $17 million of those dollars are in incentives. So we're not counting the incentives here. So really, it's a 4-year, $123 million deal. Here was Poole's reaction to getting this extension over the weekend.
You come up with a plan to do it. Everything else to take care of itself. So it's amazing feeling, a special feeling, not only for me, but for my family. You know, they put in so much time and so much money and a lot of things that you can't repay them for. You know, so it's just amazing to have them be a part of this as well. And, you know, my teammates who helped me get here. And we can go down the entire line and just talk about it, but it was a very, very special, life-changing moment. I was able to be appreciative and show gratitude.
Just over $30 million a year for Jordan Poole. Do you like it, Ramie?
I mean, I'm super happy he got it. Nick, he's from the Milwaukee area. I spent a lot of my career in Milwaukee. I know people who know the Poole family, and by all indications, like just top-notch people. And I like seeing good people get good things. So from that standpoint, God bless, and I'm glad he did it. It looks to me, though, Nick, like, and I know there was an article to this effect at The Athletic today. I didn't get a chance to read through it, but it seems to me like the Warriors are planning like a phase 2 of their dynasty, and Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins seem like centerpieces, if not the guys that they want to build that thing around. And I think both are good players and both are good young men. I don't know if they're good enough, though, if you expect them to be that dude for a championship team, either of them. Nick, I don't know if they're that caliber of player. Do you?
No, they're not. They're not. I mean, look, Jordan Poole is a one-dimensional player. He's an offensive guy, right? So we all know that. He's not a good defender. He was exposed in some of the postseason matchups. The Warriors were still able to win the whole dang thing, even though he was exposed. But we saw some of that throughout the playoffs. He's going to get picked on. I don't think he's a one. He's more like Tyler Hero, which is why this contract, if you look at the Hero contract, they're both going to make about $30 million a year. They're both offensive guys who don't play a ton of defense that can light it up. And they're both, come off the bench as the sixth man. So, the money, it makes sense if you look at the Hero deal. I didn't love the Hero deal. I don't love the Jordan Poole deal, but that is the market So that's how it goes. As far as, how this could play a role, I do wonder if this is part of the story of why Jordan Poole was able to just kind of quickly get through the Draymond Green thing, because he knew money was coming. He did not want to, he didn't want to cause any issues within the fabric of the foundation. He was getting his deal, and he decided to just be like, oh, bygones be bygones. Meanwhile, you mentioned Andrew Wiggins. He signs a 4-year, $109 million contract. Here was Wiggins on his deal.
You never know what the future holds. I'm happy here. We have a chance to do something special, and I believe in what we're doing here, and I believe in the guys, organization. So we got a deal done. I'm happy about it. I have no regrets. And I'm excited for, Tuesday.
Wiggins found himself with Golden State. That's why I don't think he's a number one, to answer your question about him, Ramie. He needs to be a part of a team. He is not the guy, the leader. He was uncomfortable in Minnesota. He gets dealt to Golden State, and he's a much better fit being the third or fourth option, a much better fit being asked just to play some defense. Here was Steve Kerr on both of these deals, these extensions.
For me as a coach, there's nothing better than seeing someone rewarded for their efforts, for their work. Obviously, this is life-changing for Jordan and his family. And you feel proud, you feel happy for him, his family, for all those nights he came in here working and working and working. It paid off. And for Wiggs, it's similar. I mean, he's obviously already coming off a big contract, but he's just coming here and adapted to our style and done everything we've asked, everything to help us win a championship last year. It's great to see him rewarded as well. So it's a really good day for our franchise.
Ramie, this is insane. Between the payroll and the tax that they're going to have to pay on these contracts, you're talking about $483 million, almost $500 million Joe Lacob and company spending on this basketball team.
Good Lord. I mean, winning is obviously lucrative, Nick, right? Like winning championships is obviously lucrative. If other teams are out there and looking around and going, man, is it really worth it to spend on all these players? The Warriors aren't spending this money unless the profit margin is growing year in and year out. And that's, man, I think every fan wants their ownership and their front office to be what we see in Golden State right now. Not just in the resources and willing to dole out that kind of cash to keep this train chugging along, but to combine those types of resources with that type of brain trust that they have there, the knowledge that they seem to have and the way of doing things is just, I don't know if there's a better organization in American pro sports right now. When you talk about the way that thing is humming along, how long it's been humming along and how bright the future still looks. It's crazy.
I do wonder if this spells the end of Draymond after this season. Again, he's got a player option coming up next year. He wants a big extension. He's going to want big money. He's going to want close to max money, if not max money. There's all these rumors about the Lakers. We heard from Stephen A. Smith last week talking about how Draymond would go to L.A. if he's not going to stay with Golden State. So, at a certain point, you can't sign everybody to these massive extensions. You've got, Steph's money coming in, which is going to be outrageous. You got Clay's money. You now have Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. And at some point, you've got to, make a decision here and say, we're going to move on from Draymond and go with some of the younger guys that we now have because of the last few drafts that we've been able to kind of gather the talent. And I just feel like this is probably Draymond's last run with the Warriors.
Yeah, I would think so, Nick. And I think it was already leaning that way. And then with the incident with Jordan Poole last week, I think that was, I don't want to say the nail in the coffin, but pretty close to it. It just seems like, again, I think they're trying to move into a phase 2 of their dynasty. And when you're doing that, there are going to be guys that you have to make tough decisions on or move on from phase 1. And Draymond will be the first of that core group to come up for a contract. And a lot of money is, as you just pointed out, already tied up elsewhere. I think this is the last dance for Draymond Green, if you will.
Follow us on Twitter at Nick C Radio, and at Ramie is tweeting, RAMIE is tweeting. Coming up, my biggest takeaway from a tough Sunday for the 49ers.
Cattles and Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
Hello, this is Joe Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is
also talked about that fourth quarter drive, which made absolutely zero sense to both you and I. And I think, big picture, here's what I don't want Niners fans to do. I don't want Niners fans to blame everything on the injuries. Now, the injuries cause certain situations. The injuries absolutely impact a lot of what we see. The injuries on the defensive end especially are a big problem. When you're missing 7 to 8 starting defenders, it stands to reason that you're not going to be as good defensively. But I don't think you watch that game on Sunday and just overlook everything because of the injuries. You can't overlook Kyle Shanahan in the fourth quarter and his mismanagement. And you also, Ramie, cannot overlook the second half offense. It wasn't good. They had guys dropping the football. I thought Jimmy G threw a couple in the bucket yesterday.
3.
That should have been,
three deep shots that were dropped.
Jimmy
3 of them.
2 that were dropped, 1 that came back on a holding penalty.
So, you have a couple of drops, and those should have been big plays, and Jimmy put the football where it should have been, put, and you're just dropping the ball. They had untimely flags, which goes into what you just mentioned, one being called back. They had a couple penalties in that second half that killed them, and they started the second half with a couple of 3-and-outs. So, again, you can't erase everything about the game yesterday because of the injuries. And one of those things I think is the offense in the second half. Here was Shanahan talking about Jimmy Garoppolo's performance yesterday.
I thought Jimmy did some real good things. I mean, especially there in the first half. I thought he was pretty on fire when we were throwing the ball. And I think there was one drive that we punted in the first half. And I thought he did a hell of a job. One was short because of the fumble, but the other 2 he let us down and got us 2 touchdown throws. And in the second half, I thought he did some real good things. It would have been, I think, a huge difference that we came up with 2 of those deep balls that he threw, and I thought he played a pretty good game.
So that was Shanahan in the post game. Here was Jimmy G.
Self-inflicted wounds was that was the story of the day. Those are correctable, but it's just you can't have them. You can't have as many as we had out there, and when you do have them, you got to overcome it. And we didn't do that today.
Let's hear more from Jimmy.
I think we were just behind the chains a decent amount. When you're in that position, you got to, I understand what Kyle's doing. You got to pass the ball in those situations, but we just got to. That's what I'm saying in our style of ball. We just got to get back to our style, stay ahead of the chains, avoid third downs, convert third downs, and that's our style.
You know what I took away from that game yesterday, Ramie? I took away
that game yesterday, Nick?
I took away this idea that this is a team that has to win their way. Like the Niners have to win with their brand of football. And not every team is like that. There are teams that can beat you in different ways. There are teams that could score 30 plus if they need to every once in a while. There are teams that can, defend and shut you down. But with this team, they need to play their style, their brand of football. And if they don't play their style, their brand of football, if one of the 3 things fall by the wayside, and the 3 things that I think they need is top-notch defense, no turnovers, or at least limit your turnovers, win the turnover battle, and run game. If they don't have consistent run production, if they don't have their defense playing at a top-notch level, if they don't limit their turnovers, this team could literally lose to almost any team in football. But if they do run the football productively, if they do play top-notch defense, if they do take care of the football, they could beat any team in the NFL.
Yeah, and don't you – I mean, it's more the case with the 49ers than it is with other contenders, but that's almost the case with just about any contending team in the NFL, Nick, that they have a way of beating you. They have a character. They have a way of doing things. And if it doesn't go their way, then things can quickly fall apart. Now, when it comes to the 49ers, I think that might even be more the case. I think it was you that passed this stat along today, Nick. It was from Josh Dubow from the AP. 49ers are 0-26 under Kyle Shanahan when trailing by more than 4 points after 3 quarters. The only other teams without a win in that scenario since Shanahan took over in 2017 is Washington. They're 0-38. The Lions are 0-38, and the Browns are 0-34-1. That is not company you want to keep. That is Washington, Detroit, and Cleveland is not the company you want to keep in the NFL. That being said, though, And you're right. You can't chalk up everything to injuries. They win that game yesterday, if not for the injuries, right? Don't they win that game yesterday, if not for the injuries? Because you're not in addition to the injuries, Marcus Mariota and the Falcons were just playing out of their absolute minds. The dude didn't throw an incomplete pass until there was about 11 minutes remaining in the game. If you have even half your defensive starters in that game yesterday, the Falcons aren't doing what they're doing offensively. You're not down more than 4 points, and then you're not putting the game in the hands of Kyle Shanahan, who seemingly doesn't know what to do with the game in his hands, down by more than 4 points in the fourth quarter, as illustrated by that, for some reason, inexplicably, as we talked about in the first hour, 8-minute drive that they showed no urgency in yesterday. Nick, you can't find yourself in that position because the 49ers under Shanahan have shown themselves to not be able to get themselves out of that position. But if they're healthy, you're not in that position. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I don't know. Varying degrees of health, who's in, who's out. It's a hypothetical to try to, break down. I will say that against running quarterbacks like Mariota, the Niners have long had some issues with those kinds of quarterbacks. This is not just yesterday that really hurt them. They've had issues against quarterbacks that can run. They've had issues with guys that can, play some of that read option stuff that we saw from Mariota yesterday. They've long had some issues. As great as their defense has been, that's been one kind of wrinkle that they've struggled with from time to time, is defending the running quarterback. So I think some of that stuff that you saw in the run game would have still been there for Atlanta. And I still think Mariota would have given them some fits on the ground. But you turn the football over, right? Jeff Wilson fumbles.
Yep.
He's your starting running back. It's a scoop, and a score. They scooped it up twice, and then they scored, right? So, you have that happen. You look at this team, and again, when I look at, of course, every team has a script that they would like to follow, and they say, hey, if we follow this script, we're going to win more football games than lose. Every team does that. But to me, it's so dramatic with the Niners, and you shared the statistic. Like, when you look at what Shanahan and this team has done, 0 wins, 0-26 when you're trailing by more than 4 points going into the fourth quarter. Like, we always talk about, Ramie, about Jimmy G having to have things around him work, and I believe that.
Yeah.
He does need things around him to work, but we also have to look at Shanahan. Like, if you're a head coach and you have literally been incapable for 5 years to come back from a 4-point deficit in the fourth quarter, that means you're a coach that can't figure it out when you're down in the fourth quarter. Like, he is incapable, and it goes with the offense, right? Like, it seems to me they're incapable of changing in any kind of discernible way to feel the rhythm of the game and say, all right, we've got to change this. We've got to flip the script here a little bit. They're going to continue to try to play their game. And if they're losing in the fourth quarter, they're in trouble. I do want to get to something that you mentioned this morning, though, on the call, Ramie. You don't think yesterday, and this kind of goes along with what you just mentioned, you don't think yesterday is that big of a deal?
No, not that big a deal at all. I mean, I think you can, with some certainty, as I just said, chalk up that loss to the injuries. That's a team that I think you beat 9 times out of 10 if you're even just a little bit healthier. Obviously, no way to say that with certainty, but in addition to that, because I look at that and I go, okay, nothing really to worry about with the Niners. Still a very good football team, just banged up and lost a game that they shouldn't. If you look at the rest of the division, Rams won yesterday, fine, but you have the tiebreaker over them after beating them last week. The Cardinals got trounced, and we talked about them when we were talking about overreactions from week 6, and I don't know if it's an overreaction to say that's a team that's dead in the water. They lost to the Seahawks, who currently are sitting on top of the NFC West, but I don't know about you, Nick. I'm not a believer that the Seahawks can sit there, and if you want to start looking to the wild card, let's say you don't win the NFC West and you want to start looking to the wild card. Packers lost yesterday. Saints lost yesterday. Who else? The Buccaneers lost yesterday. There was one other team else. The Cowboys lost yesterday. I mean, you didn't lose much, if any, ground in terms of playoff races yesterday, and it was a game that you lost largely, I think, with some degree of certainty, like I said, you can say with injuries. So from the 49ers standpoint, and is this something to worry about? I don't think so, as long as you get healthy. And from the the landscape with which in they exist, I don't think much to worry about either, because the playoff landscape didn't really change yesterday for the 49ers.
The NFC is wide open.
Yeah.
I talked about this before the season kicked off about the AFC being much deeper and talented than the NFC, and I thought the NFC would be better than this. It is. The Eagles, of course, look really good. I think it's official. You take those guys seriously. I do think the Cowboys, when they get Dak back, they'll be pretty good. But the NFC, it's open for business. In the NFC West, we thought this might be one of the best divisions in football. It has been entirely mediocre across the board, and the Rams just lost their starting left tackle. So the division is open, for business. The conference is open for business. So, yeah, I would not be freaking out just yet. It's time to check out Cosi Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. Don't forget, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. Give us the thumbs up. Also, you can subscribe to the channel. That helps us get more eyeballs to our YouTube channel. So you want to do that as well. youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. Should we believe in the Kings' promising preseason defense? Our answer is in 90 seconds.
It's Cattles. It's Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140. The place to tell you if the 49ers are contenders or pretenders.
It's a pretty big deal. I've been a fan of the 49ers since, 84.
Your home for 40.
All guests come to you from Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. He's Ramie. I'm Cattles on a Monday, getting you ready for Monday Night Football as we wrap it up here. And let's talk some Kings, Ramie. Before we get into it, I do want to thank everybody who watched the Kings recap show on Friday night following that Lakers game, final preseason game, a Friday night. It was a blowout. The team, was not on television, but still a lot of you showed up. And can't appreciate you more than I do. Can't say more than I could say right now. And just, the passion is undeniable here in Sacramento for this basketball team. And I really do hope that they compete the way we expect them to compete. So thanks to everybody who joined me on the recap show. Again, we're going to do that after every single Kings game this year. Wednesday night, Carmichael Dave will be hosting the Kings recap show following Blazers Kings, the home opener at Golden One. Ramie will also be hosting some of those recap shows. Chris Watkins will be hosting some of those recap shows. And I also want to congratulate Chris, who had his first show on Saturday morning this past weekend. Kings Weekly with Chris Watkins at 11 a.m. on Saturdays. Thought Chris did a very good job. So he'll have that show every Saturday morning. We'll have the recap show on YouTube, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. If you subscribe, you'll get the notification when we go live. Again, it's youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140, the Kings recap show following every Kings game this season. And Ramie, looking at this preseason, man, look, I know it's the preseason. We have that caveat. We always talk about it. But if you're watching this team and you're watching the preseason, I don't know if they could have been more convincing than they were. The offense was expected. It was anticipated. We know this team's going to be good offensively. But the defense, Ramie, the defense has looked promising.
It has, but if there was, and you're right, as promising as can be, but if there is one thing that comes with a huge grain of salt for me when it comes to the Sacramento Kings and what we saw in the preseason, it's what we saw on defense, man. And I'm optimistic about this team. I just responded to Josiah Johnson's question. What's your craziest NBA prediction for the NBA this year? I said Kings make the playoffs, not play in, playoffs. Now that's just a tweet. I'm not going on the record with that. But I think that's a real possibility, man. But the difference, because I know they can score. I know what Mike Brown brings to the table in terms of a veteran head coach and a steadying presence. I like the depth of this roster. The thing that's going to make them, that's the difference between a playoff team or a play-in team, or maybe not even being a play-in team and being that 11th team looking in at the 10 that got a little extra basketball, will be their defense, Nick. And this doesn't go back like a year or two or three. I forgot who it was that was with us on media day and just gave us, I was looking for the stat just now, Nick, just a mind-blowing stat that they've been top 20 in defense once in something like the last 20 years. Like, they haven't even ranked top 20 in defense in the last 20 years for the most part, Nick. This goes way, way back, and it's one of those things where I look at it and I go, I'll believe it when I see it. I don't need to see that this team can score. They have too many scorers on this team for them to not be able to score. I know enough of the names and what they can do on this roster to tell you it's a pretty deep roster, but not too many guys on that roster that I look at and I go, oh, that guy, that's a bulldog. He's going to bring the defense every night. They have a bunch of guys who are question marks for the most part when it comes to defense. And as an organization, they've been a complete failure when it comes to playing defense at the NBA level. So I'll believe it when I see it in terms of that aspect of the Kings game.
Defensively, they did look promising. Here was De'Aaron Fox on Friday night talking about the defense in the preseason.
I mean, I think we just have, 5 guys that have been on a string. Obviously, Mike is a super, super detailed, especially defensive coach. And, stuff can be good and he'll still tell us, what could be better about it. So I think just having someone that pays that much attention to detail, it kind of just rubs off on everybody from the assistant coaches down to the last guy on the bench. And then effort. I mean, multiple efforts. That's what's gonna win you games in the NBA. Because offenses are gonna get, sometimes they might have their first or second option, and once it gets to that fourth and fifth option, you have to, as a team, not break down and try to finish possession. I think we've done a good job at that. So I'll just try to take that into the season.
Hey, if I had to choose either this defense looking the way it looked during the preseason or looking like a sieve, I would absolutely pick them looking the way they looked at this preseason. 38% from the floor. I'm throwing out the Phoenix game because they played nobody. If you throw the Phoenix game out, team shot 38% from the floor against this defense, 31% from three-point land. So they did lock it up for the most part. And, I'm actually optimistic about this defense. Am I telling you they're going to be top 5? No. I don't even know if they'll be top 10. Will they be competitive defensively? I do think they will be at that level. They look engaged. They had great communication. As Fox said, they've been on a string. They've been communicating out there. And we always talk about it, effort. It's mostly about effort. And the guys, to me, early on, they bought in. They bought in on this idea of playing defense. Let's go back to Media Day. Here was Davion Mitchell with Cattles and Ramie at Media Day.
For sure. I mean, especially because having a defensive mind of Mike Brown, he's kind of going to emphasize that in training camp and every day. And, I mean, the culture he came from when they were really good defensively, he's going to try to bring that to our team. A lot of different pieces, but I think we can do it.
The buy-in, you heard about it, then you saw it play out in the preseason. And I think it starts with the guy at the tippity top and Mike Brown. Mike Brown's a defensive guy, and he is somebody who will absolutely sit you or call a quick timeout if he doesn't see it on that end. And I think that means a lot. Let's go back again to De'Aaron Fox, who talked about Brown and, the defense and the idea of what they're trying to do.
Obviously, defensively, Mike he's already on us, even, while playing pickup and he's walking upstairs, he'll beat on the window or something and say something. So I think the coaches are just as excited.
They're buying in. And I would also say, Ramie, when you look at this roster, they have guys who have the resume or they have the tools to play defense. Like Davion, lockdown guy. De'Aaron Fox has the tools to be a good defender. Kevin Huerter is a good defender. Harrison Barnes could be a good defender. Keegan Murray is a good defender. So you have cats on this team that can defend. It's just whether or not they're going to buy in, they're going to stay engaged, and they're going to continue to talk to each other while out on the floor. So I think they have the people now that can actually defend at the NBA level, which hasn't always been the case.
On a scale of 1 to 10, let me hit you with this. Whatever you think is the optimal level of Kings defense for the players they have on their roster this year, what's your confidence on a scale of 1 to 10 that they'll hit that optimal level?
I'll put it at a 7.
That's pretty high. For me, it's
I'll put it at a 7.
For me, it's like a 5 or a 6. It's a show me situation for me with this defense. I wish I could be as optimistic as you are, Nick, but I can't until I see it, man. There's just, and you're right about Davion Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox when he went up against top guards last year was one of the better defenders in the league. But defense is about showing up night in, night out and being that dog. You know what I mean? And some guys have it, some teams have it, and some just don't. Defenses want to. Defense has to come from a competitive spirit. You know, defense comes from a place that's not just talent. Everybody in the NBA is athletic enough to play at least replacement level defense. Some guys just choose not to. They'd rather use their energy on the other side of the court or whatever the case might be. I need to see night in and night out that this team can bring it on the defensive side of the floor before I believe it.
I think Brown can get him there, and I think he has 7 to 8 capable defenders on the team. And if he can get them to continue to buy in and give that effort, then I do think they can be at least a competitive defensive team. JJ, thanks. Great job as always, solo in the production studio today. Ramie, good stuff. We're back tomorrow. We've got Monday Night Football coming up. Back tomorrow for a full 3-hour show. The NBA season tips off tomorrow. We'll have a lot of Kings talk, a lot of NBA talk, and yes, of course, we'll continue with some of the 49ers discussion. Until tomorrow, everybody be good, be safe, and be healthy. It's Cattles and Ramie on Sactown Sports.
Jump the broom like a preemie out the womb. My partner yelling too soon. Don't do it. Reconsider. Read some litter. Sure.